What does it mean to be educated? We are constantly bombarded with how society views education. But what does that truly mean? This article on the Forbes magazine website sums up the well-educated conundrum with this: that being educated includes a demonstrated ability to listen carefully, to think critically, to evaluate facts rigorously, to reason analytically, to imagine creatively, to articulate interesting questions, to explore alternative viewpoints, to maintain intellectual curiosity, and to speak and write persuasively. If we add to that a reasonable familiarity with the treasures of history, literature, theatre, music, dance, and art that previous civilizations have delivered, we are getting close to the meaning of educated. Sounds like a reasonable explanation to me, but what does Harvard have to say about this? To be considered educated, students should leave school with a deep understanding of themselves and how they fit into the world, and have learned what some call soft skills, complex problem solving, creativity, entrepreneurship, the ability to manage themselves, and the ability to be lifelong learners. They also summarise that there is a disconnect between how education gets delivered in the classroom and the common desire for students to become good, well-rounded people. And again, that one from Harvard all makes a whole lot of sense to me. Notice that nowhere in either of these definitions of what it means to be well educated is there any mention of test scores, GPAs, valedictorians, how children behave inside a classroom setting, how their attendance records are for each year, how well they sat and listened to the teacher, or any other arbitrary statement that we often see provided in our schooling. The most notable point that I see here is the one made from Harvard, in what it means to be truly educated and the disconnect that we see happening inside our school classroom. So that tells us that there is no one right way today to prove or disprove what it means to be educated, and that it is actually up to ourselves to define that. If you're new here, I'm Kylie, homeschool mum to 3, book lover and adventure seeker. We've been homeschooling since 2007, so I hope you'll stick around a while. Let's get into it, shall we? As homeschooling grows in popularity, so do the many varied styles and philosophies and methods of educating our kids at home. Families that enter the homeschooling world have such a plethora of opportunities awaiting for them that are vastly different from what they may find in a traditional school. It can be a little overwhelming to try and understand all these new methods and philosophies that you'll hear once you jump on to your local homeschooling forum. And even more overwhelming to work out which one, if any of them, is going to be best for you and your family. In this 3-part series, we're going to take a look at some of the most well-known and well-trusted methods of home education. And of course, it only seems fitting that we start with the traditional school at home style. This method is often used by homeschoolers who feel the most comfort with that traditional school at home method. It's often comprised of quite a structured schedule following timetables, subjects and lesson plans, as you would find in your regular school setting. And it actually rarely deviates from those plans or schedules. Homeschoolers who use this method will often find that they'll have a designated classroom area set up with desks and all the children's learning materials right there at their fingertips. You'll also find children following the school at home method quite often will sit exams, both internal and external exams. They will need to be creating assignments and working through projects as their years progress. These are all to help ascertain proficiency in any subject level. Often, although not always, this is undertaken via some form of distance learning program where you register with an actual school and they provide all of the coursework to you. And then we have unschooling. Unschooling is a completely different approach to any other home education method that you will see out there. And it is based on wholeheartedly trusting the child and having the understanding that the child has within them everything they need to succeed in this world. It is built around natural, interest and child-led learning, which allows the children to learn from their everyday life experiences. Unschooling affords the child complete autonomy when it comes to their education, and this method can work perfectly in your home if you're educating younger children who may not be ready for more structured learning time. However, I do need to point out that there are also a vast majority of teenagers who are also having complete autonomy in their educational path. And then we move to delight-directed learning. So this method teaches your children according to their interests. However, it is slightly different to unschooling. It involves the parent gaining an understanding of where their child is at, what their child's current interests and passions are. And then the parent and often the child together will seek out learning opportunities that revolve around those current interests. Although this method can often be confused with unschooling and you will often hear them used interchangeably, there is that slight difference. And that biggest difference is that delight-directed learning does involve an element of structure and possibly some pre-planned learning activities. And it still has requirements around some of those core subjects to be learned. It simply uses the child's natural interest as its guiding point. This brings us to the Montessori method. Montessori is a method of education that is based around self-directed activities, collaboration, and a high level of collaborative play. The materials used in a Montessori environment support an aspect of childhood development and where they currently are at. And it seeks to create a match between the child, their natural interests, and the available activities that are on offer. Montessori combines a large element of freedom within a highly structured environment and utilises many specific Montessori materials to deliver that approach. As I complete the other videos in this series, I will link them all here on the screen for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments regarding today's video, please don't hesitate to leave them down below. And whilst you're there, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you all for being here. Until next time, bye for now.